Welcome to episode 161 of the weekly Shared Security Show. And joining me this week is the man, the myth, the legend, co-host Scott Wright.
Whoa. I'll take the myth. I'm not sure about the legend, but
Well, you are a legend in the podcast world, Scott. Better get used to it.
Yeah. It brings back memories of the days when I used to do the launch of the intro of the monthly podcast, and I used to come up with a new name for Tom every time. And now I hear you doing a new one for Kevin, so that's pretty cool.
I'm flipping it around now. So
there we go.
And by the way, this is your very first appearance on the weekly show.
Really? It feels the same as any other one, really.
It does. It's just shorter and condensed.
That's right. And we will be more to the point, more value-packed.
Value-packed edition. That's right. So this week we actually have three very cool stories to talk about that are hot news items going on in the world. And the first is about Apple that is now going to proxy safe browsing requests. So everybody's probably experienced this, right? You visit a site and then you get that big pop-up that says, this site may be fraudulent. You should not go here. Bad. Do not click on this. But what they're doing now is they're going to be proxying your IP address through their servers instead of sending it to Google. So this, again, is kind of part of Apple's new privacy controls that they've been releasing as of late. And of course, taking shots across the bow, if you will, at Facebook and Google and some of their competitors. So I found that kind of interesting.
Yeah, for sure. At first I was thinking, are they still using Google, but just like VPNing through? But what would that mean, right? So, I mean, I think they're definitely trying to isolate themselves from, the more loosely controlled or maybe more closely monitored data streams, right?
Yeah, exactly. And this is going to take place with iOS 14.5. So that will be coming out soon. And, other things going on, like we talked about on the show before, there's those privacy nutrition labels, right, in the App Store.
I've not seen those.
No? Yeah.
I don't download apps very often, so.
Yeah, those are interesting. So, and that's again what Facebook is all up in arms about, because now we're labeling apps and we're actually telling people, just like nutrition labels, this is what happens to your data, and you get to make that decision if you should download the app or not.
And like the movie ratings, right, for adult and
and I know. And with 14.5. Apple is also going to require apps to ask for users' permission before tracking them across other apps and websites. And that's part of that advertising identifier, that new framework that's coming out. So.
Yeah. I mean, I guess it reminds me, we may as well get a little controversial here. I do listen to your weekly show with Kevin. And I hear Kevin's comments sometimes, and I wish I could chime in. But I know when that news about Tim Cook and the Apple statement about Facebook, Kevin was sort of pointing back at Apple going, well, they're no better, right? But I kind of disagree. I think they're applying a little more mature control over things in general. I would like to hear more about what Kevin thinks Apple is falling down on in terms of privacy.
Yeah, well, maybe that's a good episode where you and Kevin can battle it out. So
battle royale.
Yes, I like that. All right. Well, all of you listeners, if you want to hear that episode, let us know in the comments. We'd love to. Yeah. I'll be the referee and facilitate.
There you go.
That'd be great. So our second story this week is an article that was on ZDNet, about a cybersecurity threat that costs businesses millions of dollars a year, and it's kind of often forgot about. And that is actually BEC scams, which are facilitated through phishing emails. And it's good to have Scott on here because Scott knows a thing or two about phishing emails. There may be a company, I don't know, Click Something.
Yeah,
you know of a company like that?
Yeah, no, don't know. Yeah. So thanks, Tom, for that great setup. I'll try and
Yeah.
knock it out of the park here. But yeah, I mean, phishing is, sometimes loosely defined, right? In terms of any emails that are malicious, but a lot of times people think of them as just things you click on, right? Well, don't click on the link or the attachment. But business email compromise it's a type of social engineering that just happens to use email, right? And it tries to get you to do things that you wouldn't otherwise do if you knew what the intent or the outcome was. So what the scammers have really learned to do well is social engineer. They come up with a pretext, some backstory that tells people, something plausible that they're going, oh yeah, okay, well, what criminal is going to go to the effort of trying to, convince me of all this stuff, I wouldn't be targeted by this kind of thing. But they don't realize that the criminals, have a master plan, and you might be just a stepping stone in that process. So these attacks, I don't think necessarily always happen in isolation, although you do hear about the accounts payable person getting an email from somebody and they just make a payment. That doesn't happen so much anymore. But now it happens from a little more of a setup, right, where there's some relationship with somebody in the organization, and the request comes maybe even from an internal employee saying, oh, we got to pay this thing. And so it's all a matter of trying to convince the people who have money in the organization or control of the money to pay, fraudulent requests, and without going through the proper approval channels and checking, the history of invoices and things like that. And every time you shut one down, there's an infinite number of pretexts that attackers can come up with, and they just keep doing that.
Oh, it's crazy. Yeah. And this is primarily focused on small businesses, nonprofits. In fact, my wife and her work was targeted. She actually works for a small church, and, got an email from the pastor and said, hey, I need you to wire this money to this account.
Yeah.
And it looked pretty legitimate, actually. And these are meant to trick you by, having that email come from someone you trust.
Yeah.
Right.
And the thing that I kind of need to get across to people is this is not an IT problem anymore, right? I mean, it's a social engineering, it's fraud, it's criminal activity, and you can't always rely on the IT guys to uncover it or track it down. And there are cases where some of the people that I'm talking to in managed service providers, they're getting held responsible for this kind of fraud when really their core competency is in making sure that systems are locked down and stuff like that. There's nothing they can do about people who just don't follow the policies, and they don't really have control over the policies. So it is kind of in an area where small businesses don't have a lot of strict procedures. Everything's kind of casual, and if you get a message from a personal email account that kind of looks like your new boss, or there's a whole lot of reasons why things might not be normal, and the attackers take advantage of that.
Yeah, and in the last stat in this article I thought was really fascinating was the FBI actually listed BEC scams as the highest amount of reported losses. In 2019, they came back with $1.7 billion in losses. And that's actually ahead of ransomware in terms of loss.
Yeah. And there are a couple of interesting things. So first of all, it's not uncommon to get requests for over $1 million, maybe not all at once, but maybe over a period of a couple of weeks. Once they make it happen once, they'll just keep doing it until it doesn't work anymore. And there are cases where companies have suffered millions of dollars of losses from a single attack kind of, or a set of attacks. And then you've got a ton of different situations where businesses typically are finding different ways that money is leaving their company through fraud or other types of thing, and it's all coming through social engineered emails.
Yeah, crazy. Well, definitely something to spread awareness about, and everybody keep.
If only there was a company that could teach people how to stop this stuff.
Right? Yes, that's a good segue into our sponsor, ClickArmor.
Let's hear what that guy has to say.
That's right. And now a quick word from our sponsors. Given the state of the world that we are currently living in, your digital privacy, cybersecurity, and health is more important than ever. That's why I recommend the use of a Faraday sleeve for your laptop, smartphone, and key fob. And if you want the best Faraday products on the market, you need Silent Pocket. And because you listen to this podcast, you can take 10% off your order right now during checkout at silentpocket.com by using discount code SharedSecurity.
Is your team starting to show signs of fatigue from traditional security awareness compliance training, or from phishing assessments that target them for those teachable moments? As we've seen in recent news, these kinds of training are having a negative impact on corporate culture, and they're really not all that effective. So there has to be a better way. ClickArmor is the first gamified learning platform that helps build a self-defending team through engaging learning challenges and exercises. Its unique lesson templates, built with proven gamification techniques, let people learn and exercise important defensive concepts in a safe and fun environment. Whether you need to quickly deploy a training solution that gets people to stop clicking on things immediately, or you've got your own boring content that needs to be put into a more interesting user experience, ClickArmor can help. So go to clickarmor.ca/shared security to learn how to build a self-defending team.
So our last story this week, and no pun intended, is that LastPass is making changes to its free service. So I'm actually a LastPass user. I know several people.
Yep.
I've recommended it to friends and family. If you're going to buy a commercial password manager, LastPass is a great one. Stirred up a little bit of controversy this week, I think, with their free version, which has been great, and most people only need the free version. And now they're going to start charging. They're changing the way that they are implementing their free service. So basically, they're only going to allow you to use it on mobile or on a computer, not both. So you have to choose one.
Mm-hmm.
And I know that's challenging because for me, I use it on mobile. I use it on, different desktops. I'm kind of a multi-user person with that.
I didn't get a chance to read the article, but to me, that's actually not news. For some reason, when they first started out, they were free on, I think, 2 platforms at most you could share, right?
Mm-hmm.
So desktop and one mobile device or something like that. And then you would pay $1 a month. I think now it's like $12 or $15 a year or something like that for a subscription. But I've been paying for it for several years just so that I could have multi-platform. So they're just announcing what today or these days.
It's going to be,
you
you have to
for?
choose between having access on your mobile device or computer, or you can't do both now. It's one or the other.
But if you were paying, you could have both, right?
Yes, correct.
Okay.
Yeah, $225 a month now is the new.
Okay. Because I thought it had been that way for a while, but there must be something new.
I think they limited the number of devices.
Oh, that could be. Okay. Yeah.
That you connect. But
right.
so, I don't think this is that big of a deal. I mean, they are a business after all.
Mm-hmm.
Things always change with these businesses, but, we're big proponents of password managers. Any password manager is better than none.
Yeah.
And so I think that, that's a cup of coffee. $225 a month.
In terms of return on investment, either you're going to save yourself time from writing things down, or exactly. Or else you're going to be risking having the same password everywhere and potentially losing a lot more, right? So it really makes sense to pay for that service just to be able to securely manage all of your passwords.
Absolutely agree. All right, Scott. Well, that's all we have for this week. Short and sweet.
Well, I appreciate you inviting me on, Tom.
Yeah,
hopefully we can do this again. And
and I know we have our monthly show next week.
That's right.
We'll go into our highly researched topics.
Yes. You didn't mention that we were like in the top 8 podcasts.
I didn't mention that. Yeah, we were in this article about the top 30. It was top 30 podcasts.
I think it was cybernews.com.
Yeah,
top 8
cybersecurity podcast. So thank you for
everyone.
That accolade. Much appreciated.
And thank you, Tom, for all that research that you do.
Yes, you're welcome. All right, Scott. Thanks everyone for listening, and we'll speak to you next time.
Thanks, everyone.
That's all for this week's show. Be sure to follow the Shared Security Show on Twitter and Instagram for the latest news and show updates. If you like this episode, please hit that like and subscribe button, and please subscribe to us on your favorite podcast listening app. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next week for another episode of the Shared Security Show.